Face it, we've all done something in life to make us stand out. Getting that popular new haircut, wearing that bright t-shirt, or getting that special gift for someone important. But when you think about it, do you really need to do all that extra stuff to stand out? Hey, I'm Nicholas from Ratings.com. Today we're going to review the Dell Alienware AW2725Q. It's a 27-inch 4K 240Hz QD-OLED that competes with other monitors that have the same specs, like the Asus PG27 UCDM that we also recently reviewed. It's also part of the Alienware gaming lineup, providing another option to other QD-OLEDs that are slightly different, like the 32-inch AW3225KF, which is another 4K 240Hz monitor, and the 1440p 360Hz AW2725DF. So considering it's another in a long line of QD-OLEDs that have come out in the past year, is there anything special about this? And should you get it? One thing that's definitely different is the design. Instead of the regular black and white look that we're used to from Alienware monitors, this one comes in blue. It has a sleek metallic finish, but that's not all good because it's easy to leave your fingerprints on it even with clean hands. Plus it scratches easily, so you might need to be careful when handling it. Even the stand is a bit different with a square base instead of the large feet that we've seen on some other Alienwares. This new stand is nice though because it doesn't take up as much space on your desk. It's very easy to adjust and it stays in place well once you do. It also has the typical cutout that helps to keep your cables organized. Once you want to connect your computer, you'll notice that the inputs are down-facing and set into the back of the monitor. Not ideal, but they're easier to reach than on past Alienware monitors because the casing isn't so bulky. And you'll also see that it offers your typical selection of inputs. There are two HDMI 2.1 ports, with one being the eARC port. You could use it to send audio to a receiver or soundbar, including in Dolby Atmos, but it lacks your typical audio jack. It also has a DisplayPort input, but unlike some higher-end monitors, it's limited to 1.4 bandwidth. Besides that, it includes a USB hub with two USB-As on the back. There's another USB-A and a USB-C underneath the bottom bezel, so these are easier to access. But because it doesn't support DisplayPort Alt mode, you can't use this USB-C port to display an image from a laptop. Now that we know what it offers in terms of inputs, let's move on to the performance, starting with gaming. First off, you can reach the max 240Hz refresh rate with both DisplayPort and HDMI, but your graphics card needs to use DSC compression to do so. And it supports all common VRR formats to reduce screen tearing. In terms of how it actually performs for gaming, well, it's a QD-OLED, and it performs like one. That means it has a near instant response time for sharp motion at any refresh rate. Sure, there are some transitions when it goes from dark to bright colors where the response time is a bit higher than expected, but this is hard to see with fast objects. Plus, there isn't any overshoot that results in inverse ghosting. Any blur you see at low refresh rates is persistence, but the monitor doesn't have a black frame insertion feature to reduce this blur. And besides the fantastic motion handling, gaming also feels responsive thanks to its low input lag at any refresh rate. This is the case no matter what settings or connection you use, including if you enable the console mode setting. This is good to know for console gaming, and it supports any signal from a PS5 or Xbox, including 4K up to 120Hz and Dolby Vision with an Xbox. It isn't perfect for gaming though. Like with pretty much any OLED, it has noticeable VRR flicker that's most distracting in dark scenes. This happens when there's a big change in the frame rate, like in loading scenes on PCs, but it isn't so much of an issue for console gaming. You can also avoid this issue by setting a frame rate cap or disabling VRR. That's just one downside, and there are so many more positives when it comes to the picture quality. Again, it's a QD-OLED, so we know what it should look like. But in case you aren't caught up, it has a near infinite contrast ratio in dark rooms for deep, inky blacks without any blooming either. But keep in mind that using the monitor in a bright room causes the black levels to rise, making them look purple. It's still fine if you do want to use it in a bright room, because the glossy coating reduces glare really well. Even reflections from strong light sources aren't too distracting, but it doesn't get bright enough to fight glare in really bright rooms, like if you have it opposite a sunny window. It does get brighter in HDR though, especially with small highlights. They really pop against the rest of the image, but like any OLED, it can't maintain this brightness with larger highlights. It also displays most content brighter than intended, which you could see with raised blacks in dark scenes. It has a slow roll off before reaching the peak brightness too, so it doesn't let all highlights get the brightest they could. Instead, you can enable the console mode setting if you want a sharper cutoff. But you could only use this setting over HDMI, and it doesn't fix the raised black issue. It's better in Dolby Vision though, but some content is actually darker than it should be. There are other positives for HDR though. It displays a wide range of colors in the DCI-P3 and Rec 2020 color spaces. There are some inaccuracies with both, but they're minor. It also displays bright and dark colors very well, so HDR content looks vivid. It even displays a wide range of colors in SDR, including in the Adobe RGB color space, but you need to calibrate it for the best colors. The sRGB mode has white balance issues, and it undersaturates colors in the sRGB color space. Plus, gamut tracking is off, with most bright content looking too dark. That's where calibration comes in, as it fixes these issues. The last thing we want to talk about regarding picture quality is the text clarity. Normally, QD-OLEDs have worse text clarity than LCD monitors of the same size and resolution, as they have fringing around letters. But on this monitor, text looks pretty much like a 27-inch 4K LCD display, which is to say, it's fantastic. There's still fringing at the top and bottom edges of windows, which is typical of QD-OLEDs, but how much this bothers you changes from person to person. Alright, how does this monitor compare to others? First off, it's safe to say that pretty much any QD-OLED performs so similarly. So when comparing them, we have to think about the small details, and that's what we're gonna do here. We've only tested one other 27-inch 4K QD-OLED so far, and that's the Asus ROG Swift PG27 UCDM. On the surface, they have many of the same positives, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, the Asus pulls ahead a bit. The main advantage is the improved HDR with more accurate PQ EOTF tracking, and the fact that it gets brighter. Besides that, the Asus has extra features like DisplayPort 2.1 bandwidth, DisplayPort alt mode over USB-C, and a KVM switch. These features also come at an added cost, so when deciding between this and the Dell, you have to think about whether you want to spend more on those perks or save money with the Dell. Another option you might want to consider is the bigger sibling of the AW2725Q, the AW3225QF. These two are actually a lot more similar. Why wouldn't they be? They're from the same manufacturer, but besides the bigger 32-inch screen on the AW3225QF, it also has a curved screen, which is really a personal preference. However, the AW2725Q has higher pixel density with sharper text clarity, so they each have their own advantages. Plus, the 27-inch model comes in at a cheaper price. This brings us back to our main question. Does it truly stand out, and should you buy it? There's no question that the AW2725Q is a top gaming monitor. It has everything you need: sharp motion, a fast refresh rate, and remarkable picture quality. Essentially, it's a fantastic choice if you want a 27-inch 4K QD-OLED. It comes with a nice price tag for a premium monitor too. But without anything to truly set it apart, it still has some trade-offs, so you have to weigh those pros and cons before buying it. That's all for the Dell Alienware AW2725Q. If you want more details, check out our written review. The link is in the description below. Until next time, I'm Nicholas from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs. Ciao!